Welcome to Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine, where we always have great suggestions for your next audiobook. I'm Michele Cobb, and we're talking with narrators about titles we've selected as the best audiobooks of 2024. Today, we are diving into nonfiction and culture, and my guest is Gabra Zackman. We will get to her in a moment. But first, here are AudioFile selections for best audiobooks in nonfiction and culture 2024. The Message, written and read by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Our Hidden Conversations by Michele Norris, read by the author and a full cast. A Poetry Handbook by Mary Oliver, read by Kimberly Farr. There's Always This Year, written and read by Hanif Abdurraqib. What's Next Is Now by Frederik G. Pferdt, read by Sean Pratt. And Cue the Sun, The Invention of Reality TV by Emily Nussbaum, read by Gabra Zackman. Welcome, Gabra,
Hi, it's so lovely to be here today.
and congratulations on being in one of the best audiobooks of 2024.
Oh my goodness, I'm really so blown away by it, and I'm incredibly flattered, and I'm thrilled that it's this book. You know, sometimes you get a book where you're like, "Ah, this book is awesome," and you're never quite sure will everyone else think it's awesome, and I think everyone else did think this book was awesome. So, it's wonderful to be here for this awesome book.
Well, tell us a little bit about Cue the Sun, The Invention of Reality TV.
Okay, so Cue the Sun is basically I would describe it as like a kind of like a wonderful backstage pass to not just reality TV, but the invention of reality TV and the culture at the time, the culture when reality TV was invented, how reality TV influenced the culture, and then sort of the in how reality TV intersects with our culture today. It feels a little bit like a backstage pass, but also is a very personal view of a lot of the stories behind the contestants, their families, what they were going through. So there's a lot of very personal intersection with that, let alone that the writer herself, Emily Nussbaum, is just like a brilliant, funny, moving writer. And so it winds up being this book really about culture and culture at large that is surprising when it's about reality TV, which I think all of us would all of us think, ugh, reality TV, even if we love reality TV, which I do also, but I think we make it into something quite superficial, and sometimes it is. But under Emily's writing and her discussion of it with regards to culture and the backstories of reality TV, it is really anything but superficial.
So it sounds like you were a fan of reality TV before you recorded this.
Well, to some extent. I mean, I would say like a fair to middling fan,
Okay.
meaning that there's been a couple of shows that I've gotten really, really, really into. So I watched a whole lot of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, watched that for many, many, many years. I don't know if you know this, Michelle, but some people who you know and respect, myself included, were in a Bachelor, Bachelorette fantasy league.
Oh my, wow. That's serious.
I think it was mostly women. I think it was almost all women, but it was like so a bunch of like audiobook chicks were like in this bachelor fantasy league. But I watched that a lot and like in groups, which was really, really, really fun. Became sort of like a party thing to do. And then there's a couple of other things that I watched a lot. Like, you know, I think reality TV is quite comforting. And that's a lot of what is written into this book as well. And tell people all the time that the only thing that got me through the death of my father was Vanderpump Rules
Huh.
and rosé and, shrimp chow mein from my local restaurant, but it was like the way the way that I would unplug because it was the only thing where I couldn't watch things with a story. I couldn't watch anything dramatic. It was the only thing that made my mind unplug. So, it truly is the one thing that got me through the death of my father is that reality show, which I now can't look at, of course, since that time.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But then after reading this, I wonder, did it actually change your view of reality TV at all?
Well, I will say there were several stories that really moved me, and there were things I didn't know anything about. So, for example, Queen for a Day, that was like right at the beginning. That's incredibly moving to take like people who don't have much and make them queen for a day is actually like a really, really moving concept, which I never knew about. I thought back to one of the early ones was Candid Camera, which I grew up on, so that one like was like, oh my goodness, right? I was growing up on that show. But then she also talks a lot about early on in the book about an American family, which was a massively important series, groundbreaking for the fact that the son of I mean, first of all, the whole family sort of fell to pieces in the filming of this, but the son of the family was gay, and it was in the 80s. Don't quote me on that, but it was 80s, maybe early 90s. I think it was the 80s, or maybe even earlier than that. It was so early to have an actual gay person on a screen, let alone even like a character who was gay, right? And it was groundbreaking for the world and for the world at that time. So, I think I've viewed in some ways reality TV, which I've always enjoyed, certain parts of it I've viewed with a great deal more respect. Certain parts of it I have viewed with a great deal less respect, you know? So it's sort of getting the real story behind it shifted my viewpoint.
Everything you're saying definitely makes me want to listen to this.
No, it's really good. It's really super good, and also just, like, the writer is just an excellent writer, an admirable writer, funny and moving and charming and personal and all the things that you want out of a writer.
So, is there anything special that you did to prepare to record this particular audiobook?
My initial thought was, "No," but then I thought back to it and I was like, "Well, actually, kind of." I was working with the brilliant director Joe Ward, who I often request because he's a friend, he's a brilliant director, and I just love working with him. And in many ways, I think the prep for this was Joe and I talking about reality TV before we would start recording and during. We're both funny people. And so we would talk about reality TV, we would laugh a lot. It was like the right energy. It was like we would kind of get into the world together and laugh and make each other laugh. And so I think that in many ways the way he and I talk just with each other is the spirit in which the book is written. So it was an excellent prep for it. So even though I don't think I was conscious of that, I do think that that played a huge role.
How fun. So, one final question. Was there anything that surprised you while you were reading this?
Mm. I was surprised by a bunch of the personal stories really surprised me. Like I found myself getting very, very moved by some of the personal stories of why people would engage in this. A lot of times if you think about anything, there's often a monetary, there's a prize at the end, or often there is, or there's like the prize of like a marriage at the end. And so if you boil that back, if you reel that back to like what people might need in life and desire, it was incredibly moving to see the lengths to which people would go to get the things that they dreamed of and how oftentimes those dreams would then come crashing down. It was very, very moving.
It's amazing to think about having sort of empathy towards people who are choosing to do reality television. So, thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no, and for sure. And I think a lot of times we, again, I think I said something like this at the beginning, but we view things that seem superficial with an air of superficiality when actually there's some real deep stuff going on there, both for the people who have created this medium. Some of them I think really, really wanted to create something that pulled I always see that did you ever see the Truman Show?
Yes, of course.
You know that moment when it's like the screen gets pulled back
Yeah.
and it's the real world? You're right. I think that some of these creators genuinely wanted to pull the screen back and see the real world. And then I think some of these creators just wanted to make a lot of money on like people's misfortune or on the way people, you know, argue when they're pushed or the way people try to survive. If we think about something like the real world and Survivor and. But some of them, I think sometimes the goals, both in the creators and in the contestants, were very, very genuine. I mean, then they sort of a lot of times fell off the rails from there, but the initial impulse, I think, was often very, very genuine and very moving.
Well, thank you for those insights, Gabra.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This book was a true joy to read. It was a true joy to record. And I got to work with one of my favorite directors, Joe Ward. And this was for Penguin Random House, which I love, love, love to work on their books. And Emily Nussbaum's writing I'm a fan for life. So it was a win all the way around.
We've been talking with Gabra Zackman about Cue the Sun, The Invention of Reality TV by Emily Nussbaum. Certainly going to be my next listen. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, we welcome you to come back tomorrow for more Best of the Year discussions. You can see our full list of 2024 best audiobooks at audiofilemagazine.com. And please be sure to take a moment to rate us on your favorite podcast app so we can get visible to the most humans possible. I'm Michele Cobb. Thanks for listening.
This episode of Behind the Mic is made possible by Brilliance Publishing.